What's up, team? In today's episode, I'm breaking down how to know if you're building muscle or not building muscle if you're doing 4 to 5 watts per week. Building muscle allows for us to look leaner and feel stronger. Now, a lot of people focus on fat loss when they should actually be focused on muscle building. So today's episode, I'm going to go over who this is for, why this is so important, and give you all the reasons to understand if you're building muscle or not. Stay tuned for tip number 7 because this is going to be the most important way to recognize if you're actually looking more like you do 4 to 5 watts per week and building muscle over time. Now, before we get started, I've realized that 70% of you people that are watching these videos are not subscribed to the YouTube channel. Now, we do a lot of really great videos on this channel about not only muscle building, but other simple nutritional based tactics you can use to crush your WODs at your box and look like you actually do 4 to 5 watts per week. So if you're not subscribed yet, go ahead, take a second, click that subscribe button below, and you'll get notifications when you go on your YouTube app that I'm doing a new video for you for free to give you information. Let's jump into it. These 7 ways you know if you're building muscle so you can look more like you do 4 to 5 watts per week and actually start to get stronger. Number 1, obviously, is changes in your body composition through the mirror. Now, why do I say through the mirror? The reason is because when we take actual pictures of what we look like and we compare it to other pictures, we can get an objective representation of how our body is changing. And this is why we use transformation photos a lot here at CBG to understand through our coaching program whether someone's getting results or not. If you simply look at your body, it's very hard to tell that you're seeing changes because you see yourself every single day. So the best way to do this is to just get mirror pictures. And this will allow for you to understand, wow, am I looking leaner? Awesome. That means I could be building muscle. And building muscle is going to make you look leaner. A lot of the desired look, especially for those women out there that are doing 4 to 5 watts per week, the answer is not fat loss. A lot of times it's building more muscle. That's actually going to make you look leaner and look stronger and look more fit, not necessarily losing body fat. Number 2, clothes fitting. Now, there's different ways that clothes can fit in different areas of your body. What I like to do is try to get a representative understanding of how are things fitting in my quads as well as in my shoulders and in my chest, my pec area versus my waist. Now, if my waist is staying the same, but my shoulders, my chest, and my quads are getting tighter in terms of the clothes I'm wearing, that means I'm building muscle. If I'm gaining more in my waist than I am in some of those other representative areas where we build muscle the best, some of those bigger muscle groups like your back and your lats and your shoulders and your quads, then that may mean you're not actually building muscle. You may be putting on some unwanted body fat. And so doing this can be really tricky, especially when building muscle is so hard to do. And it's not only about your nutrition, but also about what you're doing at the gym. So if this is something you're struggling with in terms of understanding, hey, am I eating too much to build muscle or too little? Or am I putting on this unwanted body fat and I can't find the sweet medium? And maybe you want to learn how to do this without tracking macros. Go ahead and click the link in the description below. You're going to book a call with my team. And look, there's nothing to lose. Honestly, you go through the call, we give you some free tips. We maybe build out something that allows for you to more consistently build the muscle that you want, and you go on your way and you crush it. Or you decide that you want to work with our team and really take that next step with your nutrition in 2025. Either way, nothing to lose. Number 3 is steady weight gain. Steady weight gain is going to be indicative of some sort of mass on our body or metabolic tissue on our body getting larger and growing. That could be fat or muscle, but we want to know at what rate we're actually seeing those changes on the scale, especially as we monitor consistently. And if it's at a rate that we feel is consistent with muscle gain, that means that we're building muscle, especially if we're using some of those other indicators. So if you're in a calorie surplus, you may notice that the scale is increasing slowly, which often indicates muscle gain, and that fat gain is minimal. What is the right range to look for? Well, this really depends. And I put together some sort of a range that I think would be helpful for you guys. I tend to find that our best clients that we work with gain between 6 pounds to 12 pounds of muscle in a year. Justin, 6 to 12 pounds is a drastic difference, right? 12 pounds of muscle is a lot. 6 pounds is still great, but how do I know where I'm at? Well, if you're someone that's a beginner, hasn't really focused effort into to obviously you doing some of the muscle growth tactics and strategies, both on the fitness and nutrition side, then you're likely to gain more at that top end of that range, around that 12 pounds, let's say. If you're someone that is 2 to 3 years into progressive overload, doing all your strength training, crushing your protein goal and eating at a surplus, it's likely going to be lower in that 6 pound range. So keep this in mind. This is a great rate of growth per year. And so therefore you can estimate between gaining a half a pound to a pound per month, let's say. And so that's why it's so important to recognize these changes and patterns, not on a week to week basis, but the patterns over several months to see if you're gaining muscle. Tip number 4 is increased hunger. Now, building muscle increases your body's energy demands. Your metabolic rate actually goes up, which is how many calories you burn at rest. So you're going to feel more hungry as you're training harder, but also as you're gaining weight, especially if that weight is muscle, because muscle really high rate of return in terms of how we do things with our nutrition, but also a very expensive metabolic tissue. It requires a lot more. And so as your metabolism and metabolic rate speeds up, you're going to want more food. So keep in check with your hunger cues. And if you're feeling hungrier than normal or can eat more than normal, this is a good sign. Next, improve performance. So a lot of us, especially at our boxes, if you're doing 4 to 5 watts per week, we care about performance. Seeing more pull-ups consistently, our gymnastics improving, maybe our deadlift, some of our snatch and clean work. This is the way that we can understand we're getting stronger, we're hitting better PRs, we're able to RX more workouts, and that's a really great feeling. But how do we know if we're doing this appropriately and if we're gaining muscle along the way? It's pretty simple. We actually need to track performance in our WODs on a weekly basis. Our recovery time should be higher when we're building muscle because we're at that calorie surplus. And also we should have more energy for our workouts. If you're feeling lower energy in your workouts, you're probably not eating enough to fuel your workouts and therefore probably not enough to see the muscle gain that you want. Next is tracking measurements. Measurements in specific parts of your body, like your biceps and your quads and your glutes, is going to be really important, especially in those places we build muscle more easily, like in our quads, in our hamstrings overall. You can measure the circumference there, in our actual arms, and then also in our neck can also be a really great way to understand, hey, like, are we seeing some representative changes in our overall body composition? Especially if you remember when I was talking about the clothes, how do we stack up relative to our waist measurement? And so taking measurements over time, especially when you start on your muscle building journey, which I know a lot of us are because it's winter, get measurements and then make sure that you're specifically getting measurements of those targeted muscle groups that you're trying to grow, right? Which for a lot of us as people doing 4 to 5 watts per week is our arms, shoulders, and our legs. And so make sure that you're utilizing these important tips and getting these measurements over time. Last, this is the most important. I told you guys, wait for the last tip because I was going to make sure that this is the way that you can for sure tell if you're building muscle. And that is progressive overload in your training. Number one, undoubtedly, because the only way to reach progressive overload, I'll give you guys a couple different options. You're either increasing your weight each week in a particular exercise, you're increasing your sets each week in a particular exercise, you're increasing your reps each week in a particular exercise, are all ways to tell if you're getting stronger. So I'll give you an example. Let's say you're doing a 3x5 deadlift, and after a 3x5 deadlift at 225, you're tired, you're like, wow, that was great. I really was able to improve and see some good strength with my 3x5 deadlift. And the following week, you do a 3x5 at 235, and you do it just at the same maybe level of intensity as you did the 225. That means that you're seeing progressive overload improvements and you're likely building muscle. Let's take another example. Let's say you do 5x3 pull-ups, 5 sets, 3 reps of pull-ups. And the following week, you can actually do 7 sets of 3. Also represents progressive overload. Those are all opportunities for us to understand better that we're building muscle over time. Now, this is absolutely key because you have to be incorporating progressive overload and changing your reps, sets, weights every single week if you want to see changes in some of the exercise you want to see that muscle growth. So it could be squats if you're targeting legs. It could be shoulder press if you're targeting shoulders. All of this is very important. So incorporating progressive overload is extremely important. And this is the number one tip I have for you to understand if you're seeing muscle growth over time. Never forget, you can lower your body fat percentage just by building muscle. So don't lose sight of this because this is going to help you actually look leaner and get stronger. stronger. If you're doing all of these things and you're tracking these changes and you're not seeing any improvement, the number one thing we find as to why people are not seeing muscle growth is they're not consistent enough. They're not doing that progressive overload consistently enough. They're not hitting their protein goal and eating at a surplus consistently enough. This could be very hard. And for some people I know, building muscle the right way can take a lot of time and strategic effort. And so if you're a person that feels like you're doing all of these things appropriately, but they can't stay consistent with some of the changes and improvements you want to make, what I'll encourage you to do is find an accountability partner, or go ahead and click that link below in the description. You can chat with me or chat with one of our coaches, and they will give you some free muscle building tips you can utilize and see if you qualify for our program so that you can really kick it up a notch in 2025. You may be booking on this link, you're going to get some free tips, or you can book this link and say, you know what, 2025 is my year. I'm tired of feeling low confidence and that I'm not in the body that I deserve. I'm busting my butt 4 to 5 watts per week and I still don't look like it. And you're wanting to make a change. Click that link. The call is totally free. There's no pressure. There's no reason to not learn more about what you can do to improve yourself. And we're going to teach you how to do it without tracking macros. Hope you guys appreciated this video. Subscribe, like, recommend to a friend. Go build that muscle, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.